What's going on, everyone? Jack here from Halfchrome, and this is the DJI Avata. I love this drone. It is great to capture some dynamic FPV footage, and it has these prop guards so I can fly it indoors as well. But you know what? This DJI Mini Avata is also pretty awesome, and when I want to get into tight spaces, this is the drone that I use. It uses the same FPV controller, the same goggles, and has the same DJI Rocksteady built into this, so I have awesome electronic image stabilization. But this tiny form factor lets me get into smaller spots. Okay, so yeah, no, this isn't the Mini Avata, it's actually the Mobula8, but it's really kind of a Mini Avata. Stay tuned, we're gonna learn all about it. The thing that I really love about this is that I can record on an SD card and it's stabilized using Rocksteady. Yes, I could stabilize it in post using something like GyroFlow, but the Rocksteady does a really nice job. That combined with this small form factor makes this a pretty awesome drone for doing one takes and fly throughs in houses and things like that. Now, it doesn't have the altitude hold or the throttle management that you get with this Avata, so it's going to take a little bit more practice to fly this Mobula8 HD. Alright, so a lot of people are comparing the Mobula8 HD to the Pavo Pico. I've flown them both with the 03 Air unit. I think the choice is actually really pretty simple. It's this one. It's the Mobula8 HD, and the reason is, while they're both really small, the Mobula8 is a little bit bigger in the places where it matters. It has a slightly larger wheelbase, the motors are just a bit bigger, and the props are bigger too. Sure, it's also heavier. Neither one of these things is coming close to 250 grams, so what? This one, the Pavo Pico, actually is really pretty terrible in acro mode. Like, you're not gonna do any sort of freestyle. It's just too narrow of a wheelbase and too heavy. It doesn't do well at all. Now, I'm not saying that I'm flying acro freestyle and making awesome videos with this guy, because really that's not the purpose of the Mobula HD either, right? But it does a whole lot better, and it's definitely a little bit more maneuverable. Now, it shares the frame with the Mobula8. This is the analog version, and this guy absolutely rips. If you want something that's gonna fly acro, go with the lighter version, or even maybe HD0. Probably not the 03. This thing actually does excel as a CINEWHOOP, like this guy. It shares so many things in common with the Avata. It really is kind of like its little brother. So for comparison's sake, let's take a look at this. Checking in at about 85 grams. That's with the Air unit. And then when you add the battery, 2S450, 113 grams. Now, I know my Pico with a battery is just at 100. This is my Pico with a walk snail system, and we're getting in at 91 grams. Now, my analog version here, 42 grams plus the battery, you know, that's 66 grams. And my Avata with the battery is checking in at 412 grams. So certainly some size and weight differences here. In fact, I intentionally paired it to the DJI remote because I'm gonna put this thing in my case with the Avata so that if I need to get into a smaller space, something that the Avata is just a little bit too big for, this is the drone for the job. Uses the same goggles. I just have to throw in a couple extra batteries and it's absolutely gonna fit in a case. I mean, this thing is small, you just kind of drop it in there. I'll show you how to set this thing up in a little bit if that's something you want to do as well. Now, when you buy this thing, most people are gonna buy it without the 03 Air unit. That's just gonna save you money. You can get one pre-installed, but most of these units are shipping without the Air unit, and you just kind of add it. It's gonna save you a little bit of cost, and it's gonna take you about 20 minutes to put this thing together. There really are just 4 screws. Now, I followed Albert Kim's advice, and I put some rubber washers in between here, and I use a little bit longer of a screw. That's just to kind of help with a little bit of vibration dampening, and I found that that worked pretty good. Well, the nuts on the bottom just kind of are held into place by the frame, so make sure you're checking it after flights. I actually lost one of these screws because they kind of wiggle loose. They're not locking nuts. I had a couple of smaller antennas that I just felt, the longer ones could get into the props a little bit easier. So if you have smaller antennas, certainly not a bad idea. I'm getting plenty of range. And I also put on a UV filter over my camera here. That's just to protect the lens. This thing's expensive by itself, more than the drone even. Now, some differences between this and the Pico. This is pushing 1103 motors versus the 1102s on the Pico. And they're rated 11,000 kV. It's an all-in-one flight controller rated at 12 amps. They say you can fly it on 1 or 2S, but you don't want to fly this thing on 1S. Absolutely go with the 2S battery. Now, it does have ELRS built into it, so you don't have to connect it to one of these DJI remotes. In fact, I do prefer like my Boxer over this thing, but like I said, I want to keep this with my Avata. And I don't want to have to add another controller into that package, so I connected it here. I'll show you how to do that in a second. But you don't have to. ELRS is actually probably the better option. The Boxer, the Zorro, the TX16, whatever you got, probably going to be a slightly better radio. I like the gimbals on those a little bit more. You'll probably get a slightly better range out of the ELRS than you would the O3 unit, but the O3 unit actually does a good job. Now, this little copper antenna is the ELRS antenna, which isn't great, so I just kind of folded it out of the way. When you're using the DJI, it's the same as the video system. So if your video fails, your radio link fails. So if you want two separate systems, definitely go with the ELRS. All right, I'm going to show you how I set this up in Betaflight. So if you want to go with the DJI remote, here's how you do it. Okay, so let me run how you're going to do this in Betaflight. You got to start on the ports tab. This is the most important part, right? You got to turn on Serial RX. It is UR8. It is nice because this connection cable has all the wires connected. I just need to enable the Serial RX on UR8. And I believe I had to disable it from UR2. Now, you're going to want to check what these different switches do in order to connect to your drone. Okay, so I've got a battery connected here so that I can check my switches. We're going to go from, we're going to start with the start stop button. If I push that, I can see that's aux 4. This shoulder switch here is aux 2. The other shoulder switch on my left index is aux 1. My home button here, that's aux 3. And then my C1 is aux 5. You can hear I put the beeper on it. So let me just show you what I did. You can, of course, set up your modes how you'd like, but I've got my arm here so it is consistent with my Avata on the right shoulder. My angle mode is here on this right shoulder switch. I know the Avata is on the left, but this is how I switch modes on most of my drones. So in the middle, it's an angle, and then if I put it up or down, it's going to go into acro. My beeper, I put it on this C1 button, right, just because it'd be out of the way, and I know if I need that thing to beep, that's what I'm going to do there. And then I also have a flip over. Turtle mode does work on this guy, and I usually have it here on my Radio Master controller, so I put it on aux 3. You, of course, can set yours up however you'd like. So I really enjoy flying CINEWHOOPs, and I love that we have now a couple of different HD options. Now, this isn't the most nimble of them, but it is the best video. So if you're looking for something fun, good video, really the world's best little tiny palm-sized CINEWHOOP, it's this guy, the DJI Avata Mini. I mean, the Mobula8 HD. Hopefully this was helpful. Good luck, everyone, and happy flying.